I'm getting from the standpoint about a ceasefire and ultimately a deal, some pretty good vibes coming out of Russia.
Some pretty good vibes coming out of Russia. How about that? President Trump signaling, I think, a fair amount of optimism on a possible Russia-Ukraine ceasefire after Special Envoy Steve Witkoff's Moscow trip. This as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky continues to call for more pressure on Russia. For more, let's bring in former Moscow CIA station chief, my good friend Dan Hoffman. Dan, there's a lot to cover here. I think I would begin by asking you if it's your sense, as it is the sense of many, that Vladimir Putin will say and do anything to get a deal, but that doesn't mean he'll honor it.
Yeah, I can't be too optimistic here, and it's not for lack of trying on the part of the Trump administration. They're trying as hard as they can to bring peace to a war that has just devastated Europe, the most destructive one we've seen since World War II. But yeah, Vladimir Putin is the KGB operative in the Kremlin. He said he supported the ceasefire proposal, to which Ukraine agreed, by the way, no preconditions. And then Putin went out and laid out some preconditions, which make it impossible to achieve, at least in the immediate term, a ceasefire. He wants serious concessions from Ukraine before the negotiations even begin.
I think there's a couple of things that stand out to me, Dan, as I sort of unpack what's been happening with respect to not just the war itself, but a possible way forward. And so I want you to drill down on the latter, which is if there is to be a ceasefire and, say, a 30-day, 60-day protracted negotiation, what's the likelihood that Ukraine would give up a significant part of its sea coast? I mean, from Mariupol all the way back toward Russia, there are Russian forces in pretty heavily fortified areas there, and I think the sense is the Ukrainians would have to give up a large chunk of that. Does that even begin the conversation, or does that kill it outright?
I think it begins the conversation. Look, Russia had illegally annexed by force about 7% of Ukrainian territory before they launched an invasion in February of 2022. They now occupy a total of about 18% of Ukraine. Putin wants to annex 4 regions which the Russian army doesn't fully control. He'll probably demand that. He wants guarantees that Ukraine will not be able to rearm. He does not want foreign peacekeepers in Ukraine. He said he wants to get to the so-called root causes of the war. That's just Kremlin, KGB propaganda speak for Ukraine can't be independent, and Russia wants their own puppet regime in Kyiv. So, look, the negotiations are going to be painstaking. I'll tell you,